let's get into these gradings if
Yeah.
you want to. I think we'll
Oh,
start.
yeah. We've talked enough about coaching buyouts and stuff like that for a while. So
Yeah,
let's focus on the team.
Let's focus on the guy that Jimbo recruited to A&M and he stayed, Mr. Marcel Reed, or the quarterback room in general. So for this segment of the show, Cameron and I, we have our own letter grades for these position groups that we're going to go over. Just the full 8 games of the season so far, kind of what we have seen, the numbers behind them, everything like that. So, Cameron, what you got for our QB group so far?
I would say, honestly, I was kind of teasing it was like a B+, but right now it's like an A-. I'm going to be honest, because when you go through all 8 games and you look at how he started versus how he really ended for this bye week, it's all his issues, which were in the passing game, and some of the decision making, even with taking, running the ball when you had an opening. That was a problem during the Auburn game where he had a huge hole where he could have just ran for the first down. I think he hesitated at a point. A lot of double clutching on throws, which we saw against Mississippi State, where he probably just could have hit the guy underneath, or, there were a lot of mesh concepts that were there, a lot of slants that were there. Obviously, when you have Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver wide receiver, you utilize that speed in the middle of the field. He decided to take a couple deep shots. One did work out to Casey Concepcion. Just obviously great job by him coming back on the ball. But overall, that's what fans have been looking for. Can you hit the deep ball consistently? Are you going to be a good decision maker in the pocket? Well, I can't wait till we obviously get to the offensive line grades, but that has helped a lot in terms of him going through his progressions, making the best play possible, and obviously being able to move in the pocket, being the dual threat guy he is. And as we saw against LSU, obviously with that 40-plus yard touchdown run, this is one of the hardest players to stop when he gets out of the pocket, makes his first move, and he's gone. I mean, he's virtually unstoppable at that point unless you have a corner or safety trailing him, getting close enough to make the tackle. Obviously, that video of him making Harold Perkins look like a really bad football player was hilarious to watch. But overall, what we wanted to see, this we talked about entire offseason, is his passing mechanics improving. And even though there were a couple moments, like I said, against Auburn and Mississippi State, where he could have been a lot better in decision making, he has basically eliminated those problems in the last 2. Obviously, his best game came against Arkansas. It was the most complete passing game he's had. Obviously contributed with his legs again, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns total, 3 through the air. Just the touch on his throws, the 37-yard pass to Ashton Bethel-Roman on the sideline in that game. Actually, both touchdowns to him, the red zone touchdown. He was just in the zone. And when he's in the zone and he's not double clutching, like I said, and he's making good decisions, his release is perfect. His accuracy has gotten a lot better. He's playing like the quarterback some of us expected. Some just wanted a little less because they knew that this team and the offensive weapons were good enough. But we are getting Heisman-like performances from this young man the last 2 weeks. And when you look at the opponents upcoming, Missouri, again, not playing. We're going to talk about this more next week, but they are going to be playing a freshman quarterback in Matt Zollers, who's very good, very, very skilled guy. But if A&M can do what they did against LSU, who is a respectable defense, I don't see them having trouble against Missouri's defense. I just don't. I think they're a good defense, but I think they're kind of a similar defense and even lesser than LSU in a lot of ways. Then you have 2 home games against South Carolina, who has struggled all season. Stanford, that should be an automatic win for them. And then you go on the road where you are going to face a defense that made Marcel Reed look pedestrian last season, but that was a completely different team. And I think if he continues to perform at the level he did against LSU, obviously kind of repeating his performance against Arkansas is going to be a little tougher. That was really one of his best games of the season, maybe will be of his career. But he is a Heisman finalist. He should be top 4 in my opinion right now. Obviously, we have 4 games left, but I'm going to stick with A-, and I honestly think he is one of the brightest stars on this team.
Yeah. I think you hit pretty much all the points that I wanted to cover. I think I'm more of a harsh grader because I have seen the 2 things that I think have ticked him down, at least hurt him, because I do think he's been absolutely electric this season. and has taken the strides necessary to become more of that pocket passer that we all wanted to see. We have seen the consistency he's had on those underneath routes, and for the most part, those middle of the field routes, especially like that Ashton Bethel Roman amazing catch this past week.
Which was a great throw. I think a lot of people are looking at the catch. It was a fantastic throw. So.
I think that where I need to see just a little bit more of, I'm just a harsh grader when it comes to quarterbacks. I think this one, I'm going to get to it, is a B plus for me.
Yeah,
I
kind of was well.
Entirely fair, because I need to see those deep ball accuracies hit down the field a little bit more. He needs to put a little bit more touch under it, just so that the receiver can catch up to that ball, right?
Yeah.
And then I think he just needs to be able to be more emphatic with his decision making. It is leading a lot to the interceptions that he has. Not really like any of the tipped ones, but I think at least 5 of his interceptions this season have just been because of mental errors or double checking himself before throwing. So in this, I think that when you are looking at the upcoming slates, there are very many opportunities to take advantage of those deep balls. So I think looking ahead, if he's able to combine all the things that we've already seen from him with improving on those deep passes and those decision-making skills, because we know he can take off with his legs, then the Aggies will be primed to make a run.
No, I think that's perfect, right? I know. I'm not mentioning the interceptions. One was a tipped interception, so I'm not really going to count that completely against him. One of the reasons that interception in the red zone was frustrating. Also, I'm glad a lot of the fan base, which I've seen, after a couple of days that are kind of looking back at the film and stuff like that, noticed who made the tackle on that, Marcel Reed, because he is going to be that player that when he makes a mistake, he's going to make up for it. That was also a little bit on Colin Klein, bad play calling at that point. They should have run the ball more. Doesn't really matter now. But either way, completely agree with you. If that deep ball accuracy continues, and he's going to need that when they get to the playoff, knock on wood.
And for our next group, did you add in the tight ends with your wide receiver group, just a pass catching group?
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot. No, I mean, Nate Birchkirker.
Big Nate?
Slaughter. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, Big Nate. So I don't slaughter his last
name.
If
you wanted to separate the two groups, I have both of the grades for him. I just didn't know if you'd wanted to.
No, I mean, in terms of blocking, I would give them an A. I mean, obviously, they've been one of the better blocking teams in the country. Those guys have really, outside of Amari Nyblack, who's not really going to be a guy that you're going to depend on as a blocker. I think he's improved a little bit when asked. But obviously, Nate and Theo Malin-Ostrom have been excellent. They've become actual weapons in the passing game, which that you can only ask so much from those guys. Obviously, Ostrom is more of somebody who you see as a pass catcher and more of a bigger wide receiver. You line up in the seam to against a smaller defender. But he's just improved as a football player overall. We have to go back to obviously the Notre Dame win when he got called on that hold that took away Terry Bussey's kick return. That was really ticky-tacky. But the funny thing is, one of my writers at College Wire kind of asked, he's like, wow, how did that happen? I was like, he's from Sweden. He's still learning the, basics of football. It's very hard. It takes years because a lot of it, even like when I was playing, you start playing at a young age. Usually, unless you go to college, you finish in high school, the game, the basics of the game, right? For the most part. Some people forget. But when you go play in college and then you go play the NFL, you should know if you line up off sides or do something really stupid, kind of like the Cowboys did against the Denver Broncos the other night. It's confusing, right? Because you should know the basic A, B's, and C's of football. And he's really gotten better at all those aspects of the game. Obviously had a couple nice catches against LSU, getting him involved in the offense, getting both those guys. Nate has that fantastic catch, obviously game-winning catch against Notre Dame. Had become a proven commodity already in the passing game and is already an established blocker. I think he's helping his football future right now a lot because he's doing this in the SEC and he's playing a lot more as a complete player. I think in Nebraska, he was purely just a blocker, just in run situations. So overall, I just give him an A. I guarantee you maybe have a better description of what you believe, how they've achieved this season.
Yeah, so the tight ends, I think that with the utilization that they've had this season, obviously we've seen an incredible fourth down catch by Nate Burkhardt in the end zone for Notre Dame. I think that lives in your head. Um, and I really do think Amari Niblack is kind of in a position group of his own. They call him Jurassic for a reason because he's just this creature out of that Jurassic era. Um, but uh, this tight end group overall, you said it already. I've been very impressed with the blocking skills that they've had, whether it's a brush off block for a pass and then kind of leaking out. We've seen a couple of times from Nate, or whether it's across a crosser across the field, and we see Theo Millen-Orstrom going across, streaking along to the sideline. And then overall, when I look at it, I think that these guys have kind of proven themselves even before the season. We had heard from this coaching staff and a lot of people coming in that these tight ends were kind of just making the team offense overall, just way better than they thought possible. Yeah. And we're seeing it on the field. So I would give it I would give it an A- just because I think that sometimes production value also factors in, and I think that in an offense that is, supposed to or has been heralded as utilizing the tight end more, I feel like if they were to use it just a little bit more, maybe a couple targets more of that tight end spot, we kind of see it be like, oh, this is a tight end utilized offense. And I get it. It means that sometimes you do use two tight ends, maybe a longer formation, but that's where I see it as of right now.
Yeah, and they've been able to run a lot of gap, which is, when you run gap, you have to have a lot of size, a lot of strength across the O-line, and you have to have your tight ends really blocking their butts off, which they did against LSU. There were a couple of big runs that came out of that, especially kind of opening up those holes for Marcel Reed. Had a lot to do with those tight ends making blocks down the field. So that, but I get your point. At the same time, I think if they didn't have obviously Casey Concepcion or Mario Craver, these tight ends would be even more involved in the passing game. I think you would just have those guys doing everything at some point in the passing game. It makes life easier where kind of like you see in the NFL, tight end's always open. That's always the joke. Well, no, that literally is. Unless you're Rob Gronkowski, the tight end is always open, especially on those underneath throws. And, both these guys are benefiting from the scheme right now. And I think they're just going to get better.
I think there's something to be said where your wide receivers are doing pretty well, and we'll go into those next, where it kind of overshadows that this offense has been used more as a rushing and a tight end kind of offense. But we'll get into those wide receivers right now. I think you and I probably share the same letter grade where this has been kind of an A+ effort from this, at least just from the transfers by themselves. I think that when you also look at the value you've had from guys like Terry Bussey and Ashton Bethel-Roman, whether it's a chain mover kind of game, because we've seen Terry Bussey move the chains multiple times. We saw in that Arkansas game that Ashton Bethel-Roman just kind of improved that he was just another guy to worry about in this offense. 4+ receptions, 80 yards and a touchdown in that game. That sounds pretty good to me, along with two guys who are in top 10 receiving yards in the SEC right now, in Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. And they've just continued to stack these awesome games, and just whoever's eating that game, they just keep finding those ways to improve along this offense and just win these games. Just this last game, Casey Concepcion, we've seen as more of a dynamic wide receiver, but in that punt return game, you don't want to punt to him because he had an exceptional punt return touchdown and one more where he ran it back over 50 yards. So I think just an A+ from this wide receiver group so far. And I'm honestly thinking it could go even further.
Yeah, and it's just the mismatches, and it's the fact that you have to prepare for both guys every game. You can bracket one, that just leaves another guy open. And the fact is that we talked about Ashton Bethel-Roman a lot this offseason. You ask any beat writer or anybody that was on the ground that watched this kid in practice, he was showing out more than almost anybody. Now, granted, we did learn that, and I go back to that infamous video, which just makes me laugh so hard now, of them kind of throwing off the cameras, Marcel Reed kind of throwing those far, and everybody's like, oh my God, the offense is going to be horrible. And they're all freaking out. Oh my God. Credit to Mike Elko. Those guys are geniuses, just kind of throwing off the fan base and not giving anything away. But it's helped Bethel Roman, Terry Bussey develop this season, which is fantastic for their future because Bussey is still learning how to be a full-time receiver. Like, he's had his moments. Like, you can tell, like, he's going to be a very good player for this team one day. But right now, he's more of a wide receiver 4. He's getting in there. He's blocking. He's doing whatever he's asked. He's been excellent in special teams. Obviously, that's where he really stands out right now. But he's going to have a bigger place in this offense, especially if Casey Concepcion ends up going to the NFL next season. You're going to see a wide receiver rotation that most likely is headed by Mario Craver, Ashton Bethel Roman, Jerome Miles, who's expected to obviously be healed and healthy by then, Terry Bussey, and maybe a player from the transfer portal at this point. So you have sustained success going forward, but you just can't waste what you have this season. That's why, when A&M makes the college football playoff, we know who their matchup is. You can already tell that no matter the defense they face, and there's some good ones out there, right? They're going to be in the playoff. It's going to be so difficult, especially the way Marcel Reed is playing in the pocket, for teams to defend this entire offense, right? Especially if Le'Veon Moss is back and healthy. That backfield is going to be even better. We've been waiting for this for years, right? I mean, I can tell you for the 100th time, going back to when I started covering A&M in the 22 season, there were high hopes for that year just because of talent alone going into this season. It wasn't about that. And I've seen a lot of people who watched Casey Concepcion destroy LSU the other night, especially from that team in Austin, that fan base. Yeah, really kind of complaining that why didn't we go after him in the portal? Oh, and obviously that we're going to flip him next year. I'm like, okay. But either way, there are a lot of people who missed on him. A lot of people who missed on Mario Craver. The smart people, and I'm not just saying you, I'm saying a lot of people who've been watching both these guys for years knew how good they were going to be, knew how perfect of a fit they were going to be in Colin Klein's offense, because Colin Klein did not get a full arsenal last season to kind of show off his play calls that he did, off and on at Kansas State. Again, lesser talent there even. But right now, I mean, you give him these type of elite route runners with that type of NFL speed, lights out. I mean, it's just, that's why A&M is 8-0. I mean, we talk about it, and we're going to go through obviously offensive line and defense next. But when you have these type of ingredients, you're getting the best dish possible every week. And there's going to be some bad taste in between, and the salad might be a little dry, but I mean, the ingredients overall is going to make that dish perfect. And it's only going to get better, because you got to remember, this offense is still working at some kinks every once in a while, especially in the beginning of games. We talked about watching, for example, like the run defense is always a little weaker at the beginning of games. And sometimes the passing game doesn't, find its footing yet. And then finally, when they get a little more confident and maybe they get behind a little bit, that bulldozer comes a running, and it's going to be incredible to watch the rest of the year.
Yeah, speaking of bulldozers, let's get into this running back room, because I almost looked at it as an incomplete grade because of Le'Veon Moss being out. But at the end of the day, I think from what I've seen from mainly Reuben Owens so far, Jamarian Morrow coming in as a true freshman and producing, we've seen the consistency that E.J. Smith and Amari Daniels have had back there, where it's a by committee running back room with Le'Veon Moss out. And I think as of right now, I'm giving them a B+ grade. I mean, I'm looking over the rushing statistics right now from this entire offense. So this is Marcel Reed factoring in, but this team is top 25 in yards per rush with over 5.1 a game. I mean, that is partially due to the running back room, but they rush the ball at a top 35 rate in rushes per game, almost 40 times a game. We talked about it last year where we were wanting more of a pass ratio, more than just 40% of the time, and less rushes per game. They're still rushing at about a 56% play capacity, but when I look at what they've done since Le'Veon Moss went out, I think I'm going with that B+ because of the consistency that they've had so far.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd probably be B+ right now. It's obviously a running back by committee approach, and you can see the skill set of all these guys. Obviously,
Yeah.
Jamarian Morrow has really stood out as a guy that can play right now. He's obviously going to be very, very good in the future. He's probably going to be a lead back, I would think, in the future, even going into next year. Ruben Owens is still kind of proving that he can take that job once Le'Veon Moss leaves. But and again, this gives all these guys an opportunity to show out and show, their specific skill set and how they should be used. Obviously, Morrow, going forward should be utilized in screens a lot more. I mean, just the quickness. He's got that Devon a chain type of movement. He's kind of a bowling ball as well. It's a little harder to tackle him. And, Owens, I think he did lead. I think he was second in rushing behind Marcel Reed against LSU. Had a decent game. Has not had, obviously had his great career game against Mississippi State against a little bit of a lesser defensive line, but at the same time, when you have this type of depth, it's going to help you move forward when your star isn't playing. That's all we really worried about. We just didn't know what this team was going to look like together. Well, this group was going to look like together and how they were going to be utilized. Obviously, having Morrow is just a huge X factor right now for them, because if they didn't have him, they'd really just be relying on Owens, Amari Daniels, and EJ Smith. But again, EJ Smith is somebody who probably should have been utilized a little more in the red zone during that play from Marcel Reed through the interception. But either way, he's playing a lot better. He's a much tougher runner, very physical, which is very impressive. Because I didn't really see him as a physical back coming in. He's more a finesse guy when he was at Stanford, but he's really developed that physicality that has helped them a lot in those short yardage situations. So overall, again, this is barring until Le'Veon Moss comes back. If we're throwing him in to his start of the season, B+, I think in that area, because Moss, before going down, was having a solid year, was on his way to likely matching what he finished with last year. But either way, your offense is already great, even without Moss. Adding him back in is going to make you one of the best offenses in the country.
Exactly. And what adds to it being one of the best offenses in the country is an A+ offensive line. This has been a top 5 offensive line in the country, bar none. I think that if you are looking at, I believe it's the Broyles Award that goes to the offensive line. They are in contention for that. They have been electric on this line in pass pro, in run block, especially in pull blocking. I saw a video the other day of, I believe it was Mark Naboo, just completely snapping the ball, pull blocking along the outside, and completely flattening a
sorry, correction, Joe Moore Award. Sorry, I was
Joe Moore, not Broyles. Sorry, guys.
Assistant coach, which one of our, Colin Klein at this point might get that. So
might get it, but I digress. I think that we have seen this offensive line, apart from a couple of penalties that we've seen, some of them being ghost ones. I think that this offensive line has just gone above and beyond what we expected this season. We knew it was going to be good. We did not know it was going to be top 5 level. Exactly. We had some inklings, but I cannot be more proud of what they have done because I love a good offensive line. You see how successful teams are in college and in the NFL when they have amazing offensive lines.
Yeah, and I'll keep this short because we do need to kind of run through the defense, but which shouldn't be too difficult. But yeah, I agree with you. We were a little surprised by this because you just never know, because there's a lot of teams that bring back experience. The big thing. It's kind of like when you're doing an interview and there's like the experienced guy with a long resume, but the really talented guy who just got his MBA but just hasn't a lot of work experience. You're like, who should I hire? Who do I trust? Right? There's a trust factor there. But that was a combination of veteran talent, and these are all blue chip players for the most part. I think across the O-line, I would say Demetrius Crownover was probably the lowest rated of anybody on this starting O-line. Maybe Armaj Reed Adams, because he was.
I think it was Armaj. He was a lower rated 3-star, but when he went to Kansas.
Yeah. So yeah, that's recruiting. I mean, we're not always right
Yeah.
about that, but yeah, but again, everybody has their specific skill set. I think Chase Besantis taking on that dog-like mentality. He's just one of the toughest guys in this team. Obviously, probably the strongest guy in college football right now. I mean, he has Larry Allen type numbers right now in his
maybe not Larry Allen speed, but same.
No, but same in terms of just elite NFL. I mean, beyond NFL strength right now. He was a day one starter, I think, in the NFL based on that alone. But having him play like that, consistency along the O-line, having Trey Zune, who I believe is the best pass blocker in the country per PFF.
Yes,
he is. And we saw that all night against LSU. Nobody could get past him. That left side was completely blocked off. I mean, it was impressive to watch. And Demetrius Crownover is one of the highest rated right tackles. Obviously, Mark Naboo has had a pretty good season overall. They have been, Koli Faeu has played some snaps as well. They've been switching out that position. He's had some penalty issues, but again, this is somebody who's coming off an injury, so you always give him the benefit of the doubt. But still, very good center, very dependable in that way. There's no weaknesses here, and the fact is that I believe Colin Klein talked about it on Monday. He was talking about, look, the reason we can rotate these guys in all the time is just because we have the bodies, we have the guys to do it, and that's a blessing to have as a football team. Because sometimes, there are teams in college right now who are desperate for tackle, like a starting tackle. Like they can't get through a game without their quarterback getting sacked 2 or 3 times. And the fact that A&M has, like Lamont Rogers as a backup, who was a 5-star prospect in 25 class, who's most likely going to be a starter next season, that's a luxury to have. So their O-line is going to be the reason they win games moving forward, outside of obviously all the offensive reasons we just mentioned. But it all starts in the trenches, and I think that all does. That can lead us into defense right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to list, like, having that depth on the offensive line is amazing, but don't count out how many snaps these starting offensive linemen have played. Trey Zune, redshirt senior, Chase Besantis, junior, Mark Naboo, junior, Armaj Adams, senior, or redshirt senior, Demetrius Crownover, redshirt senior. I mean, these guys have snaps, and that's what's important. So, really could not say more about them.
And credit to Adam Cushing. I mean, he's one of the most underrated hires A&M has had, because I think a lot of people, and I remember when he was hired, they just looked at he had one bad season as a head coach at Eastern Illinois or something. But I'm like, you're looking at some of the best assistant coaches just weren't meant to be head coaches. I'm not saying he's not meant to be a head coach one day, but some of them are just much better as position coaches, and they're excellent. And he's been an excellent recruiter. He's also the run game coordinator, so that's been helping a lot with their rushing attack. So just excellent job by him. I think he could be a Rose Award nominee even as well, just because of how well that unit is playing right now and how together they're playing. So either way, it's been one of the definite strengths all season for A&M.